Hey guys, Starwatch Media here with Barbara Kopple, the writer and director of the documentary film Running from Crazy, Hamptons 2013. So the Hemingways, what first drew you to explore this family? Was it the mystery behind it, the illness? What made you think you wanted to make a film about it?
Well, actually, I was asked to do this film by one of Mariel's best friends, who actually was a producer at the OWN network, and she left soon after. And so she called me up and she said, "How would you like to do a film on Mariel Hemingway?" And I said, "Are you kidding? I would love to." And then she called Mariel and she said, "How would you like it if we did a film about your family?" And Mariel said, "No way. My family is crazy." And Lisa said, "That's the point." And she said, "I think I may have Barbara Kopple." And so Mariel said, "Oh, okay, well, I'll talk to her." So we got together, we had breakfast, we talked for about 4 hours and just had a wonderful time. Her two daughters, Dree and Langley, were there sort of probably scoping me out. And for me, it was a very important film to do because you hear about Ernest Hemingway, you read his books, you hear about the girls and the family, but it's mostly, sort of very on the surface material. And for me in my films, do you want me to...
You want to go dig a little deeper?
Yeah, wait, I was just doing that because the car was honking, being a sound woman. Okay, but anyway, yes, so I wanted to really learn who they were and who they were about. And Mariel was game to do that too, so it just worked.
Now I'm curious, you've done documentaries on Woody Allen, Mike Tyson, so you are interested in kind of breaking the cultural perception of people in the famous eye. So in what way did you go about exploring that in this film?
Well, it's really interesting. I also did a film on Gregory Peck, so sort of larger than life people. But each one is a different story. And you don't go in there with a predisposed way that you want to tell the film. You go in there seeing who the person is. You allow them to bloom, to come alive, to take you on whatever journey they're willing to take you on. And that's the way I always do it. I mean, with Woody Allen, I went with him and Suni on their jazz tour for Wild Man Blues, and that was sensational. And Mike Tyson, it was really interesting because it was about Desiree Washington. And Gregory Peck, it was his one-man show, and it was behind the scenes, and he could never understand why I wanted the behind the scenes. And finally, when he saw the film, he said it was his second favorite film next to To Kill a Mockingbird. So
well, speaking of going behind the scenes, like there's a moment in Running from Crazy where you're in the support group for people who've had family members and ones close to them commit suicide. How do you build the trust as a documentary filmmaker to really go behind the scenes? It takes a lot of trust building.
Well, that's what, nonfiction filmmaking is all about, that you're going to give over as much as you possibly can. And going behind the scenes for the support group was something they wanted to talk about. And so they came together knowing exactly what was going to happen. And I think one of the big draws was that they were able to talk to Mariel and to try to see what makes her tick and to make her feel better, that she's not alone, that there are many, many other people who are going through this. And that's a very important thing with mental illness and with suicide, that we're not alone, that we have to have each other's backs, that we have to talk about it. And if we don't do that, that's very frightening, because then people think they're just by themselves. And also, too, what was really curious about the Hemingways is that they never talked about Ernest. Jack's generation, would talk about what a wonderful writer he was, but you never got to know him as a person. Mariel and her sisters never read anything about Hemingway. The daughters, Langley and Dree, didn't know anything about their grandfather other than he was a good writer, so people didn't talk about the kind of person he was. I mean, they knew from stories that they had read that he was a hunter and he loved women and a fisherman and, really had a wild side, and that, of course, he was one of the greatest writers imaginable, but they didn't really know him. And I think this film allows you to know him, allows you to know the deep secrets of the Hemingway family, and also see a tremendous amount of passion and transformation.
So, premiering on the East Coast at Hamptons this year, what has the reception been like? Because you are exploring a touchy subject that everybody knows someone or knows someone who's had someone close commit suicide. So what have people been approaching you? Have they been sharing their own personal stories?
Well, here, nobody yet has approached me with their own personal stories. At the Sundance Film Festival, our moderator said, I didn't want to moderate your Q&A. And I said, why? And he said, because my sister committed suicide 5 years ago. And I said, well, maybe tonight's a good time to talk about it. And he did. And that was the first thing he said. So he set the stage for it. And then other people were standing up, and it was confessionals. And really at the end, Mariel and I were hugging so many people, our shoulders were wet. So, but here mostly it's just people have known Margot. And it's more of a curiosity and more of just letting it sink in. I mean, I've only had one screening so far, and that was yesterday, and the other one is going on today, and I'll let you know in Q&A.
So you've worked in narrative film in the past, doing Havoc with Anne Hathaway a few years ago. I'm curious if you're interested to get back into the narrative structure of filmmaking.
I love narrative filmmaking, and I love it all. I mean, I did Oz for HBO. I did Homicide, Life on the Streets, and it's wonderful because as a nonfiction filmmaker, you go after what's real and what's true, and nobody intimidates you. I mean, for example, Yaphet Kotto on Homicide would say, okay, Barbara, I don't have very many lines, and so I'm just going to go to my honey wagon. I said, no, Yaphet, you're the boss. This is your group. You don't want to miss anything. And when the camera goes on you, that's the money shot. And he said, oh, okay. So, and Andrew Brower was in a bar. It was a bar scene, and he said, okay, you're a documentary filmmaker, so I only have to do one take. And I said, oh, no. I said, a good documentarian doesn't leave a stone unturned. And so I'm going to stay here as long as until we get it. And I said, if you do it on the first 3 takes, I'm gone.
Yeah, so fantastic. Well, congratulations on the film. And you have a screening again today at Hamptons, correct?
And the film opens November 1st at the Angelica Theater. And I'm just beside myself with excitement, and then it goes to LA and Chicago and San Francisco, and I hope you guys will see the film. Thank you.